Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Managing Resistance. This is a community dementia education program of Alzheimer's San Diego, and we're really glad that you're here today. My name is Amy Abrams. I'm the Director of Education with Alzheimer's San Diego. Very pleased today to be joined by my two colleagues, Jean and Mina.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
So this is Managing Resistance is one of our core dementia caregiver education programs. This is a big topic. It's a complicated topic, and we're going to try to cover as much as we can in our time here this morning. What I'll be starting off talking about is what's going on in the brain of a person who is living with dementia that's causing this particular behavior that we call resistance. And then Jean is going to be talking in some depth about techniques for communicating effectively with somebody who has dementia and is being resistant in a variety, a number of different ways. And then we'll be going through some tips for providing help to somebody who doesn't necessarily want your help, a big challenge, we are aware. And then we will wrap up by sharing some resources for some ongoing support going forward. So let's start with what exactly is going on there. So let me just start by saying I'm going to be very brief in this section, in this overview about what dementia is and the brain changes that are happening. This is intended to give you some context for why we see resistance in people with dementia. If you need more information about Alzheimer's disease, other types of dementia, their causes, how to get a diagnosis, we won't be diving into that in too much detail here today, but lots of resources are available for that. We have a Dementia 101 program that we will be offering next week. There is also a recording of a previous Dementia 101 webinar in our webinar library. So visit our website if you need some of that information. But today we're going to stay pretty focused on resistance as a specific symptom of dementia. But it's important that we talk about what dementia is and sort of clarify that up front so that we're all using the same terminology, speaking the same language. So dementia is not one specific thing. It's the word we use to describe this group of symptoms that are caused by a specific thing. So Alzheimer's disease is a type of dementia. It is one of many different types of underlying medical conditions that might cause these types of changes to a person's cognitive function, memory, behavior changes. And the changes in dementia are severe enough that they're interfering with normal daily activities. Dementia is not one specific thing. It is not normal age-related memory loss, right? It is a loss of functions in multiple domains, right? Not just a sort of everyday kind of memory problem. Very important for us to remember, we will come back to this time and time again. Dementia is not something that's within the person's control, right? They are not saying and doing these things that seem very out of character, abnormal for them. They're not doing them to try to be difficult with you, right? So this is not something that we can change. It is not something that they can change, but what we can change is how we think about these symptoms and how we respond to them. So that's what we're going to focus on. I love to use the metaphor of the sort of open ocean when I think about the experience of being a care partner, a caregiver to somebody who is living with dementia, and especially on a really hot, humid day like today. It's nice to envision ourselves standing here on this shore, right, with the waves kind of coming slowly, but you see some big ones coming up behind, right? Caring for a person with dementia can absolutely be a pleasant, joyful, calm, serene experience at times, right? There's a lot of beauty in the moments of connection that we can find, but it also can be pretty dangerous, right? If you're standing kind of up to your knees in that set of waves right there, right? If you're not watching, if you're not paying attention, if you're out there by yourself and you look away, right? for just a moment, one of those big waves can come crashing into you, or there's undertow that you didn't really see coming, right? It's really a mix of the pleasant, the joyful, but also, frankly, the dangerous, right? We really have to be caring for ourselves out here. So why exactly is caring for somebody with dementia such a challenging endeavor, right? There's a lot of different reasons, and hopefully I've addressed some of them here. A person with dementia, the brain changes that are happening are progressive. As I'm going to show you here in a moment, they're moving. The disease is spreading into different regions of the brain. And so the specific symptoms somebody is experiencing are always changing. The kind of help the person needs today may not be the kind of help they need tomorrow. So you really have to be sort of every day reassessing where that person is. Caregiving can be a physically demanding job. If you are a local hands-on caregiver, you know this well. There's a lot of lifting, there's heavy work. Your sleep is often disrupted. If their sleep is disrupted, yours is disrupted too. Right? This can be very challenging physically as well as emotionally and cognitively for you as the care partner. This can be an exceptionally isolating experience. If you don't have other people in your life who know what it's like to care for somebody or just to care about somebody who's living with dementia, it's hard for other people to understand this very unique experience, right? There's also just the fact that dementia, as I said at the beginning, is not just a memory problem, right? There are other changes that happen. The person's physical abilities are changing, but maybe most significantly, personalities and behaviors frequently change. So that can just be very, you're kind of not dealing with the same sort of reality, the same personality that you're used to interacting with. And of course, resistance is kind of the mother of all of the dementia caregiving challenges, if you will. So why exactly is this happening? So this is a visual picture provided by the National Institutes of Health that I think can be very hard for some people to look at. But I think it's a very important image that we keep with us as people who care for somebody who's living with a progressive form of dementia. Because on the outside, usually a person with dementia doesn't look a whole lot different than they used to, right? These changes are internal, and they may not even be very aware of what exactly is going on with them. But these are Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia are organic brain diseases. The person is losing brain cells. They are losing volume of that brain. And so as Teepa Snow, the terrific dementia educator that we've all learned from here at Alzheimer's San Diego, she once said in a training I attended with her that if we could visibly see people's skulls shrinking, right, as the brain tissue was changing, it would probably be a lot easier for all of us to have compassion for that person, to remember in that moment, this is why this person is saying this thing, doing this thing, acting this way. So I share this image with you, which again, I know can be challenging and I know can be painful, in the hopes that it will help you sort of recenter and get some patience in those tough moments. So let's take a very quick walk through what is happening in the different brain regions as dementia is progressing. So in Alzheimer's disease and many types of dementia, we see the disease begin in the medial temporal lobes, in the middle regions of the brain, and then kind of move forward and spread into the top and then eventually the back regions of the brain. That is just a very broad generalization. No two people experience this disease exactly the same way, but I want to just tell you briefly about what happens when there's damage in each of these different regions. Again, it helps to explain a lot of what we see. So when there's damage in the temporal lobes of the brain, this is where the the hippocampus is located. That's a very small little lobe, a little region within the medial temporal lobes that's very involved in memory and language, and in particular short-term memory, because this is the region of the brain where the Alzheimer's type of dementia tends to start. Short-term memory loss is a very common early symptom in people with most types of dementia. So when there's damage in the temporal lobes, we see memory loss and difficulty with verbal language in particular. So this might explain, for example, a person who begins refusing to take medication that they've taken, for years and years. They may no longer remember that that the physician recommended that they take a blood pressure medicine, for example. That could explain, or they think they've already taken it, right? When there's damage up in the parietal lobes, up in the crown of the head region, this is where we're going to start to see difficulty with being able to process sensory information. This is the part of your brain that helps you understand what you hear. This is the part of your brain that allows you to sort of make sense of what you're smelling, and interpreting temperature, taste, those types, smell, those types of things. This is also the part of your brain that is kind of directly wired to help you with dexterity, your fine motor skill. So something we might see in a person who's living with dementia, who's got damage in the parietal lobe on a day like today, when it's very warm, right, still insisting on being layered in multiple layers of clothing because they have a hard time kind of connecting that sense of physical discomfort. I'm so hot, right? A person without brain damage would know if I take off some of these layers of clothing, it's going to help me feel a little bit better, right? A person with dementia might have a hard time kind of connecting those concepts. When there's damage in the occipital lobe, we're likely to see a significant narrowing of the person's field of vision. The peripheral field of vision becomes much narrower, and that results in a lot of different changes. We are more likely to see balance issues, gait disturbance, more falls in people with dementia when there's damage in the occipital lobe region of the brain. So if you've got somebody who is refusing to take a bath, for example, if refusing to get into the shower, even though they've always really enjoyed a nice warm shower, for example, right? There could be a variety of reasons that they are uncomfortable there now, right? They may have difficulty sort of making sense of the water that's falling on their skin. They may be afraid of falling, right? They may be having a hard time balancing. Or if you're providing assistance in the bath or the shower, right, your hand may be coming in to provide some assistance, soap, washcloth, hands coming in to help wash the hair. And that may feel to them like it really came from out of nowhere because they're missing that, that peripheral field of vision. And then sort of the region of the brain that's most involved in the behavioral and personality changes that we see in people with dementia, the frontal lobe. This is a very large, very complex region of our brain that is very involved in our judgment, our insight, our reasoning, and I think maybe most importantly in our day-to-day interactions with people, our empathy, right? Our ability to see a conversation from someone else's perspective or literally to see a situation from the other side. So when there's damage in the frontal lobe, this is the region of the brain where we start to see lots of resistance happening. So in summary, the personality and behavioral changes that are most commonly seen in people with dementia, and these can happen at any stage of the disease, and they can happen with any type of severity. For some people, these are not significant issues. For many people, many of these issues will occur over time. We see changes to how people make decisions, the way they use judgment, see more agitation, more combativeness, having a hard time starting and stopping tasks. Jean is going to talk a bit about this a little later in the webinar here, but this is a very important symptom to be aware of in people with dementia. Often they can complete a task, but they need some help kind of figuring out what is the first step or what is the next step. And if we can get them going with it, they can continue going forward. Confabulation is just a fancy word for the thing that we all do, and that is just your brain just making stuff up. This happens to all of us, right? When there's gaps in a story, when there's gaps in your memory or gaps in your knowledge of the facts of a situation, your brain helps you figure it out by putting other facts, other memories in there, right? And in people with dementia, there are more gaps. And so they've still got perfectly working, vivid imaginations. And so confabulation is a very common behavioral change that we will see in people with dementia. Related to that, often that confabulation results in the person feeling suspicious or paranoid toward people, right? If my wallet keeps disappearing and I don't have a recollection of where I stashed it under the mattress for safekeeping, right? My brain's going to fill that gap in with a story, and that story is very likely to be, well, I didn't take it, I didn't throw it away. Somebody must be coming in here, right? And taking my things. So suspicion and paranoia, very common in people living with dementia. Maybe the most challenging is what we call anacegnosia, having a limited insight into the fact that I need any help at all. When a person does not remember the extent to which they have memory problems, right? When they don't realize that they need your help, it makes it even harder for us to provide that assistance, right? So all of this really kind of adds up to resistance. So Mina, any questions come in that I can address? You're muted.
There are a couple of questions that I think we'll want to hit on eventually in the program surrounding like hygiene with COVID. I think is really timely. Handling those specific tasks of washing your hand or not sticking your hand in somebody else's bag of chips. And then another common one of refusing to wear dentures, refusing to wear hearing aids.
Yes.
So I think those will be really interesting to address eventually in our program today.
Okay, great. Well, let's hold those until Jean's going to get into some of the tips and tricks for providing hands-on care, and those are some terrific questions, and we'll come back to those if that sounds good. Okay, great. Okay. So I'm going to start in on the topic of communication here, and then hand things over to Jean. So I've been throwing the word resistance around here for a little while here. What exactly do I mean by that? Resistance can come in lots of different forms, right? There's the type of resistance where you just kind of are not interested, apathy, right? Let's go for a walk. It's a beautiful day. No, thanks. Right? Resistance doesn't always mean putting up a fight. Sometimes it just means kind of digging in your heels, refusing to get up, sort of lethargy, if you will. So apathy is a very common type of resistance, but sometimes resistance is more active, right? It's actual argumentativeness, refusing assistance, and that can be verbal, saying, no, I don't need your help with that. But it can also be like swatting your hand away. Think again about that person with the limited field of vision. You're coming in to provide some assistance. And if that feels uncomfortable or startling or scary, right, you're likely to get kind of swatted away. So it can be physical. And there can also be physical combativeness, right? Real agitation. We hope that by learning about these triggers, learning about better ways to respond, we can eliminate some of that. But sometimes things do actually reach the point of physical combativeness and confrontation. All of this really is they're just all different ways of saying no. Right? Either verbally or through our body language or through, a physical pushing a person away. They're all just different ways of putting up that brick wall and saying no. So where exactly does no come from? I introduce you to this interesting little region of the brain, if you've not met it before, called the amygdala. It's a little sort of walnut shaped region, very deep in our brains. This is really the first region of our brain to finish kind of forming when we are in the womb. And it is, in most people, the very last region of the brain to be damaged. At the end of our lives, in a progressive form of dementia, all of these other regions of the brain that you see in this image here, all of those other regions that I already talked you through, right, they will all be impacted by the pathology of Alzheimer's or another type of dementia. The amygdala, for whatever reason, it seems to be pretty protected. This is the region of your brain where you've heard of your fight or flight instinct, right? This is the region of your brain where that is seated. This is the part of our brain, it's super fast acting. It kicks in immediately, shoots off all the hormones, gets all of the major muscle groups going. This is the part of our brain that keeps us safe in the face of that, you know, proverbial saber-toothed tiger that's out to get us. Right, so this is the part of your brain that kicks in and allows you to flee from a situation quickly, to become frightened, right, which is a good, healthy human response, because it gets you tense and ready to act, right, or to fight against a particular situation. This region of the brain tends to remain fairly intact, fairly functional in people through every stage of the disease, which, if you think about it, explains a lot of the personality and behavior changes we see. Often a person with dementia in the middle and later stages is really sort of living in a little more like instinctive kind of a way. We can, if you think about it, you can think of a person with a very strong functioning amygdala. We can kind of reframe the way we think about dementia symptoms in more of a positive way. If what we can see is that the person putting up a fight, the person becoming frightened, the person being resistant is actually showing us some things they can still do, right? They've still got some skills, they've still got some abilities. It shows us a little glimpse of the parts of the brain that are still working just fine. So if you ask me, Amy, do you feel like going for a walk today? Right, I've got two choices there. I can say yes, or I can say no. When you say yes to something, you are opening yourself up to a whole lot. Right? If I say yes to you, I've got a lot to consider here. What do I need to wear? How hot is it? Where are we going to go? Who might we encounter? Am I going to get tired? Right? There's all of these questions that might come up in my brain. A lot of things that are now kind of beyond my control because I've said yes. Whereas if I say no to you, nothing's going to change in my environment. No thanks. I don't feel like going, right? I'm going to stay right. A walk might be very nice. It might be great to get out and get some fresh air and some sunshine, but there's a lot I'm opening myself up to by saying yes. Whereas if I say no, I'm staying safe, right? So that's the reason this part of the brain, the amygdala, is the part of your brain that says, nope, I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to stay right here, keep myself safe, maintain control over this current situation as best I can, because that part of the brain is working just fine. That's the region. This is the sort of the basis of all of those no's that you're encountering. Okay. So I just spent a fair amount of time here going through what's happening in their brain, right? All of the different changes, the pathology, the nature of resistance, why we're seeing these things. And I do that because it's very important. It helps us to develop empathy and compassion and, develop the patience that we need in those hard moments. But I also want to take a minute and talk with you about what's happening in your brain as a care partner to somebody who's living with dementia, somebody who's got all of these personality and behavior changes that we're talking about. You too have a fully functioning amygdala. I am sure of that, right? Every one of us has got this little region in our brain that kicks off our fight, flight, and fright responses too. Right? So when you are met with resistance, when you are met with an accusation, I'm not taking that medication, you're trying to poison me, right? When we are met with combativeness, no, I'm not going for a walk today. No, get out of here, I don't need your help with that, right? What does that do, right? That triggers your amygdala, right? That's the part of you, and it's a fast acting little part of your brain, right? This is sometimes called our lizard brain or our dinosaur brain, right? It's very old, it's very deep, and it's super fast. It reacts very quickly. And so your inclination, your instinctive reply to somebody who's being resistant with you is to do what? To shut down, to kind of flee the situation. All right, this is too much. Raise my hands. I give up. I'm not even going to bother, right? To fight, to argue, to try to make the case for why they need a bath. It's been a week and you have to have a bath, right? So we've got our fleeing response, we've got our fighting response, and we've got our fear response, right? This is a really common one. This is a really big one for us as caregivers, right? When we see in that moment this person that we've known for a very long time not react to us the way that we expect them to. They're saying things, doing things that are out of character for them. We're seeing them experience a loss of function. My gosh, he or she was always so great about their personal hygiene, and now, right now, they're just sticking their hand in the bag of chips with no regard for other people's safety or well-being, right? That triggers something in us too, right? That makes us feel angry, it makes us feel frustrated, but often it also makes us feel sad, right? It makes us feel grief. And so this part of our brain, it wants to fire off and make us react very quickly too. So it's really important that we be aware of our fast, well-functioning amygdala and kind of try to trick it, right? We need to slow it down and give ourselves a moment to think of a better, not just a quick reaction, but to think of a better response, right? And the best way that we can do that, right, is the oldest trick in the book. Just taking a deep breath, right? And if you can, take a couple of deep breaths, because that gives your brain a little more time to catch up, right? To say to yourself, I think that instinctive reaction, that thing I'm about to say or do in reaction to this resistance is probably not going to help me. Let me think through a better response. Your brain needs a moment to think that through. So take a deep breath.
Yes, absolutely, Amy. Get yourself in front of that beach and on the beach in front of the water, and just kind of embrace the moment and allow yourself to calm down and think things through a little bit. And just as you were talking about our amygdala, Amy, I was just thinking kind of wool gathering, as it were, and I was just thinking, I think here in our shelter in place times and COVID times, I think everybody's amygdala is firing, a large part of the day. And just as we're encountering all these challenges and anxieties, and also, our lives have changed.
You are right. We're kind of on overdrive. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I like that, actually. I'm sorry it's happening, but that our amygdalas are on overdrive. And I think when that's happening, we're much quicker to do fight, flight, or fright responses. We're primed for it. So I think that's just something for all of us to be aware of as well, too. So once more for me, please just take a deep breath. And they always say in through the nose and a deep exhalation through the mouth. So we've had our deep breath. Now what do we have to do? Well, we want to be starting to think how we can respond versus how we react. The fight, flight, or fright is a reaction. And again, we're wired for that. All of us do it. We've all done it at various times. I'm quite sure we'll continue to do it throughout our lives. And that's no judgment on any of us. We're human beings. And it's good if in these moments of caregiving for our people living with dementia, if we can take that moment to take a deep breath and do a better response versus a reaction. Because as Amy pointed out, our people living with dementia are not in control of how their brain is functioning. And so when we are facing resistance and we are facing challenges, again, it's not their fault. It's not something they can control. So we have to look at the parts that we can control. And that means looking at ourselves. So respond versus react. How do we do that? Well, let's just look at a couple of things here. So if I'm reacting to somebody, I am doing all these 2 C's and an A correcting, a confronting, and arguing. Any one of those things. Maybe all 3 of them at the same time. Goodness only knows. If I'm responding, it's a much more measured tone of things. If I'm responding, I'm validating, I'm reassuring, and I'm redirecting. So, for example, Mom is putting on sweaters, all sorts of layers of clothing here today, and it's in my neighborhood today, I believe it's about 95 degrees out already. It's going to be over 100. So what am I doing if I'm reacting? I'm saying, Mom, wait, stop, take those sweaters off. Come on, come here. Let me take those off for you. And Mom says, no. And I'm saying, Mom, it's, there's a heat wave going on. Like it's 100 degrees outside. Like just stop it and let's get these off of you. So all these things I'm doing, I'm correcting and confronting and arguing with her. And a better way can be responding. So validating. First, are you feeling chilly, Mom? Maybe she is feeling chilly. People living with dementia, again, because of the damage that's going on, as Amy said, the parietal lobe and sensory perception, they may be thinking they feel a little bit chilly even when it's warm out. So just saying, are you feeling a little chilly? Well, maybe Mom says, yeah, just a little bit. And then reassuring them that, we'll make sure we keep you nice and warm. It is a warm day out, but I know it can be chilly here in the house. And then redirecting and saying, well, how about we get you that one really good sweater for you instead of all these ones? They don't do quite the job. Let's go get that nice sweater for you. And then pulling that out of the closet and offering that in exchange for these other layers that the person is wearing. So that's just a little example of reacting versus responding. And again, let me just say, it's as I'm saying it in my own head, I'm saying it's too bad I'm not always in this responding mode. But I'm not. And again, we're all human here, folks. So we do the best we can, okay? And there we go. And the focus here is really important because when we're reacting, the focus is on me. I'm talking away. And I'm talking away because I'm identifying the resistance in some regards as being an action or behavior or as something that's making my life more difficult, okay? So it is all about me. When I'm responding, my focus is on them. It's on my person living with dementia, and it means listening. Mom's feeling a little bit chilly. It may not make sense at the moment because it's 100 degrees out and I'm warm, but she may be honestly feeling a little bit chilly. So listen. So what are communication techniques? Well, there's all sorts, and these are some of the most important ones. And so a common reassuring tone is always a good thing. And even if you're not feeling calm and reassuring to yourself, if you can take a deep breath, and I believe you can do this. I know I can do it. I've done it in times of extreme stress where I have been able to take a deep breath and just kind of put myself in some kind of Zen zone and just start talking in a very calm and reassuring way to help keep the people that are around me that I'm communicating with to come down hopefully to my level so we can, we can work on this together and not be going head to head on things. We want to give short, clear directions and questions. Keep it simple and concise. We tend to talk actually too much with our folks with dementia. We tend to over-explain and over-elaborate and give all sorts of clarification that's unnecessary. So short, clear directions and questions. Allow plenty of time for our people living with dementia to hear what's been said, to process, and to respond. They need more time. Their brain has slowed down in its functioning. So we need to give them some time for that. Repeat as needed for understanding, but repeat in the same way. Don't worry about, changing your explanation of why you want them to do this particular thing, or changing your direction in terms of what you want them to do. Keep it the same way as you did the first time. Validate and agree. It doesn't mean necessarily that by validating and agreeing that that's the way things are going to go, but it is important that your person living with dementia knows they're being heard. And forgive and apologize. And, I know Amy and Mina will agree with me. The power of the apology is just tremendous. And I think we all know that. I mean, when there's been some kind of disagreement or something going on with somebody, whether it's somebody we care about or love, or a friend or a coworker or whoever it is, for somebody to say, look, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. That means a lot. We take that very seriously, don't we? Apologies are important. They carry a lot of weight. And they do still with our folks living with dementia. And sometimes we have to apologize for things that really are not our responsibility, or that we really didn't have control over. But there's still power in it, in the words, for the person living with dementia. So this little face with the big googly eyes, and of course he's got the over his mouth. It's like, So that's saying, zip it for a little bit here. Again, talk less and listen more. And it is, in some ways, counterintuitive. As I said, we tend to kind of over-explain and over-talk with our folks living with dementia, thinking we're going to help them, that it's going to make things clearer. And it's not. It's actually quite the opposite. We've just given them a ton more information to try and figure out and process. So talk less, listen more, and observe as well too, folks. That's why you need to have the big eyes. Be looking at things. Be observant. So let's see where we're at here. I think we want to do a little bit of a quiz. We're going to quiz you folks. You didn't know that there was an exam involved in this. Well, there is. So let's just see how well you were listening. This is our pop quiz on responding versus reacting. And so we're going to ask all of you as attendees to answer this poll. And we're asking you, the following are ways of responding to what a person with dementia is expressing, rather than reacting to the words that they said. And check all that apply. So we'll give you a moment to do that.
This is anonymous, by the way. We don't know who's answering correctly and who's not. So
does that mean I don't get to give out gold stars?
Right, you don't.
how was the order? When I was a kid, literally they did gold stars and red stars and blue stars, and I don't know what other stars. I think sometimes I got a dark colored star. Well, let's have a look here. I think we've got a good amount of votes in. So let's see. Option number 1, correcting, showing the person when something is wrong and making it right. The majority of people said, that's not the way to respond to folks living with dementia. And that's true. None of us really enjoys being corrected, especially if we're somebody living with dementia when, you know, life is already extra complicated and challenging. And now we have all these folks saying things to us like, don't you remember? I told you this and I told you that. And take that sweater off. It's too hot for that.
I'll just add it on the topic of correcting. Sometimes you do have to correct a person, meaning you need to physically, right, they're starting to do something that's unsafe. We know, I don't want you to put your hand under that tap of hot running water. You're going to get burned, right? Sometimes you do need to make a physical correction, but you usually don't need to tell the person that you're doing that or why they're doing that, right? So this is really more about, you know, you don't need to point out that they did something wrong and tell them that you're making it right.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Safety supersedes all these other things. So option number 2 was reassuring, reducing the person's worry or uncertainty by reassuring. And again, we had 97% saying that, yes, that was a good thing to do. And absolutely it is. And then the next one, validating, affirming that the person is correct or that their feelings are valid. And 98% responded that that was a good thing to do. And absolutely, that's true. And I love how this has been worded. And Amy, I'm giving credit to you because I know you created this poll, that it's not always telling the person that they are correct in their belief, but that validating their feelings, their, you know, thoughts that's going on, the emotion that is arising out of a particular belief or situation. It's important to validate those things. And then our last option for responding to a person was confronting, so challenging the person. And 0%, everybody was agreement, down, thumbs down, not a good thing to do. Confronting, and I agree. And yet still sometimes we do it, but you know, it's a learning curve and it's a learning experience. And you know, we have to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room sometimes. So that was good. Good job, everybody. So let's talk about actual tips then for providing help to somebody who's telling you they don't want your help. So when we are providing care to people living with dementia, here's some important thoughts. Is, as Amy talked about extensively here in the first part of our webinar today, keep in your mind that dementia is causing this progressive loss of function. Again, the unseen, it's an unseen disease for a good portion of time. And so there's damage and changes going on in the brain that we are not seeing. It's not visible to us. And so there can be a tendency for all of us to kind of forget that that's going on and to expect our person living with dementia to still behave and respond and react to what we're saying and doing in the way that they always did. So, and that can't happen anymore. They're not able to do that anymore. Remember that the goal in providing care is autonomy, not independence. And truly, you know, are any of us really fully independent? I think very few of us. We do depend and rely on each other for all sorts of different things. And our goal in terms of working with our folks living with dementia is to help give them a little bit of room to self-govern their own lives, to make some choices. You know, that's a thing of honor and respect for all of us. You know, I think we would all agree with that. And that doesn't go away with the diagnosis of dementia. So we want to bring to the table, in as best as we can, every interaction we have with a person living with dementia, is that opportunity for them to do some self-governing. We need to be reasonable in terms of our expectations of people, and flexible, because understanding day-to-day changes that we all have. So today I'm having a good day and I can do X, Y, Z. Tomorrow, if I'm not having such a good day and maybe I haven't slept too well, it's good if you don't expect me to do X, Y, Z, because I may not be able to do that. So be flexible, be as flexible with them as we are with ourselves in terms of our daily up and down of functioning. And really important is to do tasks with them, not to them or for them. And this is, again, really in the end coming back in my mind to autonomy and self-governing, is these, you know, any one of these folks, and frankly, any one of us, if somebody comes zooming into my room in the morning, my bedroom, and is telling me okay, it's time to get up, and they're pulling clothes out of my closet and saying, come on, we've got to get you washed up and your teeth brushed and so on and so forth. You know, whether I have dementia or not, I can guarantee you I'm not going to have a very positive reaction, because, you know, I'm a grown adult. I don't need anybody storming in and telling me how to do all these things. It's counter to my personality. And I don't need people telling me what to do and how to do them. And I also don't need people doing things for me. And I think we all kind of react that way as well too, is if you've ever had anybody who's kind of, maybe you've been doing that, I'm trying to think, but I can't, some kind of hands-on task, and somebody comes in and kind of takes over. I know what I'll think of is, because this sometimes happens in our house. If I'm cooking, and I cook in a particular style, different from how my husband cooks. And so I'll be cooking and talking about it or asking him a question that is actually meant to be rhetorical. And he jumps in and starts maybe stirring things, and that's actually a good example, stirring things. And I'm just like, no, don't come in here and start taking over for me, because, you know, I don't like that. And our people living with dementia don't like that either. So when we've got care situations that, you know, need to be, as best as they can, need to be accomplished, think about how you can do the task with them, not to them or for them. I want you to think about that a little bit. So, because that's kind of the meat of it. So how do we do that? Well, we need to do our best to, first of all, create dementia-friendly environments. And in general, these are going to be uncluttered. Regardless of, we've got the picture here of the soap in the bar of soap in the little soap dish, whether that's in the kitchen or the bathroom or wherever. But just think about the environments that we do some of these tasks in. And, you know, are the kitchen counters cluttered? Are the bathroom counters cluttered? Uncluttered is a good thing. By and large, for people living with dementia, it reduces the visual distractions, the visual clutter. And it also, it can become a safety issue as well too, clutter. So try to minimize that. Be prepared with whatever essential items you need for that particular task. So have everything at hand so that you're not having to say, oh, wait, I forgot the towel. Oh, wait, I'll be right back. I need to go get the whatever it is. All those kind of things are distractions and takes away from kind of the energy you're putting into doing that particular care situation. So yes, minimize your distractions, which means you running in and out to get things. And it also means sounds, noises, activity, things that are going on around you. Just think about what you can do to make, again, I'm going to use, I use this word often. I know Amy will attest to this. Do your best to make whatever environment you're doing the care situation in kind of a Zen environment. So keep it, try to simplify it and have as little distractions as possible. Making it accessible, safe, and comfortable. And I'll give you a specific there is, I actually had a dog and now I have another dog that loves to bust in. If I don't latch my bathroom door in the morning when I have my shower, he just busts in so that the door goes wide open and then all the cold air comes in while I'm having my warm shower. And that's uncomfortable for me. I don't like that. That's something I know later on in life, for any care partner that's helping me with bathing or it would be showering, is they need to have that door closed and not be opening in it and coming in and then leaving and then opening the, letting that cold air in, because it makes me very uncomfortable. We for sure need adequate lighting, and that's a very important thing for our folks living with dementia. And here we go, comfortable temperature. So whatever's going to make us feel good in that moment. So here's quick tips. All right, so I made reference here to bathing and showering with my dog. Unfortunately, my dog doesn't respond to my telling him what it is I need. However, you can pay attention and observe, your person living with dementia to see is that something you've been doing and you didn't realize you were doing, coming in and out of the bathroom while they were having a shower or a bath and you're letting this cold air in? Maybe it's been happening and it's not been pleasant for your person, but you just kind of haven't caught sight of that. So again, put your observer eyes on. Gather those supplies that you need. So yes, get the nice towels out, whatever else it is you need. The robe, maybe you bring the robe in too. Prepare the room. And that, for our folks living with dementia, that might mean things like getting the bathroom a little bit warmer. Some bathrooms have heat lamps that you can put on, but you could also just start the shower earlier and close the door and just let it steam up a little bit and get the temperature up. And with some of our folks living with dementia, something to think about might be to cover up the mirror. If the mirror is something that is a distraction or in some sense, some way disturbing to them, sometimes it is, then to have a towel or some kind of covering over the mirrors might be a good thing. Have everything ready to go and then be simple and direct. Come on, Mom, I got your shower going and I've got your robe ready and I got those nice fluffy towels. Let's go. Let's get you in the shower. Respect privacy and, use towels or clothing in terms of covering people. You can hold a towel up like this so that the person's not fully exposed and you're not seeing, their private parts. There's ways to do things. and think those things through. And certainly you can call us and we can talk you through some specifics as well too. Some final thoughts for bathing and showering is, you know, we actually, Amy and Mina and I were talking about this just before the webinar started. We were actually talking about, we've been all putting on some nice scented lotions for ourselves before webinars, and we're laughing a little bit and saying, don't quite know why, because nobody can smell it but us.
You all are really missing out. We smell delightful.
I know, we smell fantastic. So, but you know, lots of people like nice scents. So if they do, get some nice scented products, soaps, shower gels, shampoos, lotions for afterwards, whatever it might be. And on the flip side of things, understand that some people are sensitive to smells and may need to have things that are unscented. So, but you can think about, you know, the quality of soaps and gels and lotions and things that feel good. And as far as that goes, to think about some nice fluffy towels. And, you know, everybody needs to have a couple of nice fluffy towels. So, and that includes our folks living with dementia. You know, you can add some spa music too. Why not? Make it that Zen area. Some quick tips on medication management. And this is a big one and an important one. And some tips would be is to give important medications first. And if you're uncertain as to what medications are most important, and I would say that many of us are, talk to the pharmacist. The pharmacist can most certainly tell you, you know, what would be the order of importance. Consider the time of day that is your person living with dementia, their best time of day. And that would be the time then to give the medications, unless they are prescribed for a particular time of day. Some folks aren't morning folks, so to plunk medications down in front of them in the morning might not be the best time to do it. Maybe they need a little bit of time, and lunchtime is a better time. Going back to doing with them rather than to them or for them. Take your own medications at the same time that you are offering them or putting, you know, directing or putting their medications in front of them. Say, here's yours, here's mine, here's our water, cheers, and take your own medications. And, you know, look, if you don't take medications, maybe you take a vitamin, or maybe you take a allergy medication, or a raisin, or a raisin,
an M&M. Yep.
You know, I mean, there's also,
you want to show them the act, the motion of doing it, right?
Yeah.
Rather than
and it feels less than like you're saying, here, you need to take these, rather than we're here together, we're taking our, you know, we're taking our stuff. So, and absolutely talk to the pharmacist about all of these things, the necessity of the medication. If your person living with dementia is having trouble, maybe there's several medications and who knows, vitamins and other things that they are taking. Maybe it's time to pare it down a little bit. So talk with the doctor and the pharmacist about maybe what are the ones that maybe don't need to, you know, be taken any longer.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the dosing and the time of day. And if it's continuing to be a problem, for sure get with the pharmacist and the doctor regarding how the medication is taken. Could it be actually given maybe in a liquid form? Could it be crushed and put into some applesauce or some jam? Don't do these things without consulting with the pharmacist and the doctor, because there are some medications, you know, that shouldn't be crushed. They're time released. There's just different parameters for each medication. So it's important that you do consult with those professionals, okay? But these are some of the things that can be done. And, you know, there's always, for people that are really resistant to taking medication, you know, I'm not against some of the kind of putting the carrot on the end of the stick type of techniques. So in other words, you know, these are your medications. I'd really like you to take those. And if you do, I think I'll take you out for an ice cream cone, you know, or a frozen yogurt. So a little bit of bribery works sometimes. It works with all of us. So sometimes those things can help. Ooh, I went a little too quick there. Some quick tips on dressing. So we've talked about, you know, with the heat going on right now, the heat wave, and how if we've got somebody who's layering clothing, how that makes for challenges. So some quick tips for managing dressing and closets and things like that is to consider simple and comfortable clothing and footwear, but I'm also going to say to simplifying the closet to be reflective of clothing and footwear that is appropriate for the time of year. So for this time of year, if you've got mom who's layering on all sorts of sweaters, maybe after she's gone to bed tonight, you could remove most of the sweaters and just leave one or two light sweaters. No big, you know, no coats, no heavy clothing, no heavy flannel shirts. If those things aren't in the closet, if they're not there as options, mom doesn't have that ability to choose them because they're not there. So get those things out of the closet and have there as the options, the things that are appropriate for the time of year in terms of weather. You can lay out clothing in order, and in order we're referring to in order, the order that it's put on. Okay, so underclothes first, you know, and then pants or skirts, and then tops, however they are. It's important to respect choices and privacy. And again, this is give them a moment to do some self-governing in terms of choices. Would you like to wear this or this versus put this on? And you know, the other thing is, if they want to wear a top that doesn't go with the bottom, is it really a big deal? If it makes them happy, that's the outfit that they want to wear. Don't stress too much about those kind of things. Respect people's privacy. So give them the option, to where you can maybe turn away or just step out of the room for a moment so that they are able to put the clothes on themselves. Maybe you need to go back in and help with some adjusting, but that's okay. And again, remember about talk less. So keep your directions simple and use verbal and physical cueing. And by physical cueing, we're talking about things like with dressing, it's like, okay, this is going to go on over your head. Put an arm in and an arm in and over your head. Or button it up. Or, to pull the pants on. Those are the kind of physical cues we can give. And, just referring back to things like bathing, or let's say brushing teeth or any like bathroom type activities is like, it's time to go for a scrub. We're going to wash our faces and wash our hair, brush our teeth. Give those physical cues, those visual cues that people can see so that they are better able, to understand what it is we're going to be doing together in the next short little while.
There's something important in that language you're using in those examples too, Jean, and that is that we need to do this. We're gonna brush our teeth, right? While you're giving the visual cues, you're using language that sounds like this is a thing we are gonna go do together. It's very helpful.
Thank you. And I didn't even realize I was doing that. Mm-hmm. So how about that? So, but it is important because that's again, it's more respectful. It's more respectful of our folks living with dementia. So let me see. Come on.
Not clicking? Okay.
It's not working.
Okay, gotcha.
The slide advancer is not working. So for meals, some things to be thinking about are considering the timing, the scheduling, and the coursing of meals. Again, our folks living with dementia, they may be on kind of a new schedule, as it were, than they had been previously in terms of when they're feeling hungry, when they're ready to sit at the table and eat, or when they're not. So again, have those big eyes on and be observant, and be listening and be checking to see if you think your person living with dementia is ready for food. Might be an idea to consider giving them one thing at a time. Sometimes that plate full of food is just too much. They may be, I mean, I literally have seen people push it away that have been hungry. And it's because the plate full of food is akin to clutter. There's too much. There's too many choices. There's so many choices that I'm going to sit back, and my choice is to not make a choice. And this is going kind of back to what Amy said about initiative. And really that's what we're talking about, is that ability to initiate. Eating is being impacted because of the disease, and it is absolutely related to having all this clutter on the plate. So consider one thing at a time, or at the very least, smaller amounts, so people can visually see on the plate the foods. Think about making a move to foods that require less utensil work to cut up and get, you know, for example, meat away from the bone if it's a chicken leg, or, you know, you want to make it simpler and easier for your person to be able to eat. So the other thing I was thinking about, and don't get too upset if they do start, it's not at all uncommon for people at some point in the course of the dementia to stop using utensils and start using fingers, and don't be too upset with that. One of the things I was thinking about this last night, and I thought, you know, have you ever seen them do this in fancy restaurants where they come and they have on a plate and a little pair of tongs, and they hand you a warm, damp cloth to give your hands a wipe? And so maybe that's what we need to do with our folks living with dementia before we even start eating. It's like, you know, I'm Jean, I'm your daughter, and I'm going to be your server for tonight. And I would like to start off, Mum, by offering you this little warm towel to wipe your hands with. So maybe you can get them to give their hands a wipe down. And then they start doing the finger food eating. I'm going to refer back to a question I saw earlier. Mina, you made mention of it, about somebody who was like putting their hands in other people's food or other people's packages of food. Is that correct?
That is right, yeah, which is an issue with COVID going on, not understanding the need for extra vigilance with hand washing as well. Mm-hmm.
I think in that particular instance, what I would do is I would for sure try this technique of, offering them a warm towel and mirroring for them, doing it for me too. So I've got the cloth and I'm washing my hands, trying to do my best to make them clean. But the other thing I would do is I would get rid of the packages. And, so that Mom doesn't have a package and I have a package, because then she's like, maybe she can't tell whose package is whose, or else she's just maybe interested in what's in my package. So let her just have her food in front of her. And what you can do with social distancing now with COVID, also is you can be sitting at the same table with mom with your food in front of you, but you're just far enough away that she can't reach for it. So those are my thoughts on that particular question. Amy, would you care to chime in with anything?
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. I think those are good strategies. I was also just thinking about what does it mean exactly that she wants to reach over and grab someone else's food? Maybe we can get in touch with what that's about, right? Is sharing food is such a familial thing. It's an interesting sort of instinct a lot of us have. What does she mean when she reaches over to grab that food? Is she trying to connect and commune in some way? Maybe we just let her, just let that happen. You know that's going to happen. So you have your stash somewhere else and you go grab your snack later. In the same way that I'm always really careful. I don't like to compare people living with dementia to children in any way, right? These are full grown adults. We need to treat them with all the respect and dignity that they've earned, that they deserve. They are not children. But what I remind us all about is that we're much more tolerant of these kinds of behaviors in children. It's harder for us to see our mother, a grown person do that. And that's about us, right? That's about our reaction. It's not about what they're doing. So maybe try to think more compassionately about that and think, oh, I know it's easy for me to say, but think to yourself, it's sort of sweet that she wants to eat from my package, and be prepared, in the same way that the mom of a young child might be, right? Be prepared with her own clean plate of food in the kitchen that she can eat on her own. Being
Absolutely.
flexible.
And I love that actually, because it's just kind of an adjustment in our own minds, so that if I go with the package of chips to the table, I know she's going to put her hand in it, and I'm prepared for that. So I open it and I take maybe the first chip and then I offer it to her, and she reaches in and takes it. And then maybe I just do some pretend eating, but we're sharing this bag of chips.
Nice.
And so you can turn this into, just as you said, a really sweet moment. So I really like that. So for sure, again, simple directions and verbal and physical cueing is important. And eating together, again, because you can mirror for your person with dementia what it is you're doing. So for example, if they're starting to have a little bit of trouble with utensils, they can still use utensils, but they're starting to have a bit of difficulty. If I'm sitting right across from mom who's having difficulty, and I see she's just kind of looking there at her plate, so then maybe I can catch her eye and say, Mom, I'm really looking forward to this chicken. And then I pick up my fork and I pick up my knife. I put the fork in the chicken and I, do the saw motion with the knife and take a little piece of chicken and eat it. So with all of that, I've just demonstrated for her what the steps are. And that might be enough to initiate her, get her going with eating, for her to say, oh, okay, fork, knife, cut, eat. So that's important. Doing these things with each other together is not only giving you opportunities to connect and be together and have moments, but it's also you giving your person with dementia important information about the task that is at hand that you want to accomplish. And you're helping them by giving them those physical cues. Let's see if it'll work this time. There we go. So what we want to say, just to kind of wrap this part of it up, is, again, we are doing our best to honor first and foremost the person. And by honoring the person, then we are also then honoring and giving respect to their routines, their rituals, and their personal preferences. And in as much as is possible. So give that some consideration here when we're thinking about care tasks. Consider again the time of day. What is a good time of day? What is a not so good time of day? You know your person, you know their patterns and when they're at their best and their brightest and when they're at their lowest. And that's true for all of us. So think about that. Provide that validation and the reassurance, both verbally, Mom, you're doing a great job, or we're in this together. And I want, I know it's tough, but we're in it together. We're a team. Visually, just giving everything from the information they need to thumbs up, to okay, to, the little heart, I love you, or, whatever. There's all sorts of validation we can give to people. And then, of course, physically, just by a hug or a pat on the shoulder, or all those kinds of things. Make your requests positive and action-oriented. And as Amy pointed out, I guess I was saying these things, it's time to take our pills, let's try it this way. So again, you want to be communicating that this is a team effort, that you're in it together. You're not doing these things for the person or to the person. You're doing them with the person together. And so here we are again. We're back at the beach. Look at those waves. And again, take a deep breath, folks. Breathing in and out. Do y'all feel like we're all slouched over our computers all day now with our Zoom meetings and everything that we're doing? We probably need to be reminded of a deep breath more often. This was a lot we talked about here today. It's lots to take in. We don't expect you all to have it down pat and down perfect. First time around, none of us ever do. So just remember that you're, just like you wouldn't dive into those waves out there and go all the way out there to that big break on your own, unless maybe you're like Laird Hamilton, the surfer. Most of us would never do that, though. We wouldn't go out there alone, and it would be dangerous. It would be taking a risk. Remember that we don't want you diving into all of this as a care partner alone either. And so, Alzheimer's San Diego and Amy and myself and Mina and all of our colleagues at Alzheimer's San Diego, we want you to come to us for support and guidance and all those sorts of things. So we're going to just stop for a moment, I think, and have a couple of questions or just move on. So we're talking about additional supports.
Mina, any particular questions? We just have a couple minutes here.
Well, I think we talked a little bit about, sticking our hands in somebody else's chips. What about things, I'm going to really broaden this, but there were things brought up about like wearing hearing aids, dentures, even adult diapers, getting someone to wear those things that they think they don't need or are refusing to wear. Anything in general that you can address?
Yeah, really tough. And I think our instinct is always, especially when it comes to those sort of key personal hygiene things or medication, our impulse is to try to lay as much information on the person as we can about why this thing is important. We can kind of talk all day long about how this medication is going to help you, how wearing an incontinence undergarment is going to, keep your skin healthier or make it possible to go out. Those are understandable and noble impulses, but generally not helpful to a person for whom more information is not usually helpful, as Jean described. So my very general advice, one technique that hopefully, helps in a lot of different situations is the kind of the talking less and acknowledging, I know this sucks, right? I hate wearing these things too, right? Making it about a moment where you're expressing, I understand why you don't want to do that. Right. I saw a question in in the chat earlier about, you know, when I try to give my mom when I watch my mom trying to take her medication, and then, you know, she's refusing to take it. She thinks she's already taken it. You know, I'm trying to convince her to take it again, right? Sometimes just saying things like, I know, it seems like this medication is just never ending, right? Saying something, that's a way of validating a person. You don't have to correct, you don't have to prove why this thing needs to happen. Just kind of moving forward with the fact that this is happening. The case of incontinence undergarments can be a little difficult because it's hard for you to do that with the person, right? But you can acknowledge, I know it's hot, these things are uncomfortable, right? Maybe just for this trip out of the house, right? That might not be true, but there are many instances where you can use the person's inability to remember for long periods of time to your advantage as a care partner, right? We're just gonna put this on just for an hour while we run this quick errand, right? So would just say less negotiating, right? Less dialogue about it, just kind of moving forward in a gentle, assertive, but very direct kind of a way. Anything you'd add, Jean?
Oh, I think that sounds really good. Yeah.
Anything else?
Every day is a different challenge, right?
Yep. Any other questions we can address? Okay.
Looks like no.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we need to keep moving here. So,
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you know, as I was listening to myself and listening to Jean, I'm thinking, gosh, this is a lot we're asking you to do, right? We're asking you in moments where your to-do list is piling up on you. You've got the stresses of the day, your own challenges, right? You're also sheltering in place, I imagine. We're asking a lot of you to take those moments, take a deep breath, think through a more thoughtful, helpful response, right, in those situations. I just want to acknowledge that. We know that we're asking a lot of you, and we don't expect you to be doing this by yourself, right? So to Jean's point, unless you happen to be the Laird Hamiltons of the world, we don't want you swimming in these waters by yourself, and you don't have to. That is what we're here for. So keep coming to classes, attend skills clinics. We're going to be doing a skills clinic in October on the topic of eating specifically, that we're always offering other programs like that. Reach out to our social work team, other community resources out there. We can connect you, right, for learning these techniques. Learning and skill building and practicing those skills is part of it. But getting a break, right, stepping away, freeing your mind from the stresses of this every now and then is critically important. That's how we learn, right? We take in new information and then we rest. Our brain has to consolidate that information a little bit before it's going to be accessible and available to us. So getting breaks is a really important part of being a skillful care partner. Right, so find those supports, whether that means a support group, whether that means counseling services, or whether that just means somebody else, you know, sort of stepping in for a few minutes to give you a couple quiet minutes to think and breathe. You need space to take that deep breath. So that's what we're here for at Alzheimer's San Diego. We are, like most of the rest of the world, we are all working remotely, but we absolutely remain available to provide not only information, education, you know, talk with our social workers about, you know, these individual scenarios that you have, right? Pick up the phone, give us a call. Our social workers can talk you through your scenario and do some problem solving with you. But we can also help you find those respite resources, right? Those opportunities to get away from thinking about dementia for a few minutes at a time. So I won't go into too much detail here about the array of programs and services that we offer at Alzheimer's San Diego. It is all on our website. It is all free. It is all pretty easy to access these days. Please be in touch. We will put a message out in the chat now with a link to a social work follow-up request form that you can use to reach out and ask a member of our social work team to send you information about any of the programs or services that we offer. One program in particular I do want to highlight is our All's Companions program. This is now a all virtual program wherein we have companion volunteers who are trained and ready to make virtual visits with people who are living with dementia to give a care partner while it's virtual, right? It may not give you the freedom to leave the house the way that you might want to or need to at the moment. It at least gives you a few moments, minutes, hours of kind of mental freedom, right? To not be thinking about the next topic of conversation or gosh, doing that activity again together. You know, you can get a little space, again, just to give yourself the opportunity for those deep breaths that you need. So if you're interested in learning more about this program, please just call us or fill out that social work follow-up request form and we'll get you some information. The volunteers are trained, and we also have members of our tech team, like me, who's been here today. We have members of our tech team who can help you set up the technology. So we don't expect you to or the person living with dementia to know how to use FaceTime, right? We'll help you figure out the best tool that would work for you in your home and help you get that set up. So just a quick plug for Walk for Alls. It's going to be an all virtual event this year, Saturday, October 17th. We raise every dollar we have at Alzheimer's San Diego. We're a local organization. Everything we do, we never charge for it, but it costs money. So if you are interested in participating or learning more about that, just go to our website, alzsd.org/walk, and all the details are there. It doesn't cost anything to sign up to do the virtual walk, and just spreading the word about Alzheimer's disease and dementia awareness, showing your support for the organization and for people that are living with dementia is invaluable. So, oops. Okay. So there you have it. Here's all the different ways to reach us through our website. You can call us. You can email us. Jean, did that chat go out, or the link go out in chat yet? You can call our main office and we'll connect you to a member of our social work team, send an email, or fill out the follow-up request form that hopefully is going to go out soon in the chat. And again, just fill that right out, and a member of our social work team will reach out and connect you to whatever you need. We have a couple of education programs coming up we want to make sure you're aware of. I will be doing an Instagram live conversation. You have to be on Instagram to watch this one. But if you're on Instagram, join us tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We're doing a conversation on making meaningful connections, especially in this time of sheltering in place and physical distancing. I'll be doing a program next week with an audiologist on the topic of hearing and cognition, the connection between those things. It can be a very interesting program. And then there's that Dementia 101 program that I mentioned. If you want to learn more about the various types of dementia and how diagnoses are made, medications that are recommended, those types of things, please join us for Dementia 101 next Friday morning. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. We really appreciate your attendance here today, for joining us. Thank you for your really helpful comments and great questions. We'd love your feedback on the program. And when the webinar ends, you're going to see a little opportunity to fill out a short survey. It's anonymous, and it's just a few questions. We would love your feedback on this program. Any suggestions or ideas you have for other education programs are always welcome. Always looking to improve. So please share any feedback that you have. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, a recording of this program will be available in our webinar library shortly. And a copy of the slides will be emailed out to everybody later today. So with that, I'll go ahead and wrap us up. That link went out in the chat, so please fill out that brief little form if you'd like us to have a member of our family services team reach out and connect you to some resources, or just talk through your specific scenario and see if we can help you with some suggestions. That's what we're here for, and we'd love to help however we can. So thank you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and stay cool and stay safe. And we hope to see you again at an upcoming program.
And don't swim alone. Take care, everybody.